Howdy, Internetville. Today I want to talk about artificial intelligence and why I think people are drastically ignoring what it means for this to exist right now. Damn it, my little throat clearing. I realized I need to avoid that in videos. I need to get some cough drops or something, but I do it. It's I think I've had girlfriends make fun of me for that. Actually, I have. I definitely have had that happen in the past. But artificial intelligence, the reason I think people are underestimating the potential for it is I don't think many people are creative thinkers, honestly. That's not me trying to be offensive. I don't think a creative thinker I think is a good thing, and I think creative thinking should be valued in society in general for a society that wants to fully fulfill itself. But profit motive, capitalism, that stuff, it doesn't incentivize a society that is self-aware for the sake of a small portion of that society being able to promote itself to itself perpetually while locking the rest of society into a perpetual self-defeating loop of whatever we got going on right now. But one of the exciting things I think about artificial intelligence is I believe in a not insignificant number of ways it will break that loop to a point that the people who I believe are people who could be running things like this theoretically, in some kind of hypothetical, whatever kind of fucking way you want to say it, I think it'll break that loop, and what's going to happen after that? I mean, I'm a good person, I think, for prognosticating on different types of things. The type of person who can think about possibilities. But I want to say something. Okay, a quote I have often mentioned in the past at different points. I think it's attributed to Bill Gates. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not a quote. I'm not one of those people with the black and white thinking that requires a quote giver to be some kind of deity or something before I care about their quote. I would literally quote Hitler if the quote was relevant to some kind of good thing or something. That might be powerful in some kind of inverted kind of way. But Bill Gates, I believe, said that the closest thing we have to magic, I believe, is programming, the ability to program things logically. And I as a hemophiliac who has lived his life passively in this, a lot of my life, I've fully accepted my vicarious state in that's my state of being, and I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that, and I enjoy that. And I think I have learned to see beauty in that, in so many different ways that I could write reports on different video games, for example, and that's one of the things I would want to mention. is that when you think of programming, you can actually literally create worlds. You can create your own world that a person can physically explore. And you would say physically, yeah, it's just a video game, but immersion is a component of standard video games. Presence is a term applied to virtual reality in video games, where that's something that a lot of people, I'm sure, haven't experienced yet. But to have a video game universe, and then you literally feel like you're standing in it. You can look around. Like when you think of Minecraft, it's these big blocks. Like a player height is 2 blocks, I believe. When you have presence in VR, this was one experience I had with VR. I had a bunch of different insightful experiences about it, but one was trying out Minecraft. I am 2 blocks high, so those 2 blocks are very wide compared to a human. Like if I'm only 2 blocks high, then those blocks are quite wide. So a tree is just this massive thing. It just makes, like, suddenly you're in this world that you played for hours. Like, I played Minecraft for so long. And suddenly, I am just this tiny little creature just going through the place and knocking on blocks and stuff and doing the little standard process. The idea of presence is so alien compared to that standard gaming experience, and I experienced that several times in VR in really cool ways. But point being, AI will very well bridge all of these gaps to a point that the average, not even a creative thinker, like I'm a creative thinker, not even you will not even need to be a creative thinker to be able to create your own world. And that, guess what that does? It draws out creative thinking from people. So when we get to this point, it's not necessary that every single person will indulge in these activities. They won't see the tools as necessary. They will take the route towards the indulgence of things. But I think a large number of people will catch on to the tool aspect of it, where the creativity will pull them in to be able to create things that, I mean, as a creative thinker, someone that like breaks a lot of mental boundaries to create ideas I don't even feel like I would have thought of. That's one of the things that I like about being creative, to think of things that you don't think you would have even thought of normally. So that like if I draw something, I'll be like, that doesn't seem like something that I would have even created, but I'm proud of it in like a weird way. That's something I've always enjoyed. But in a greater sense, I suppose, one of the things I like about that is that it pulls back toward creating a larger perspective of myself through everything. That I have been able to create all these different things, and they all do end up somehow being like a portfolio. But one thing I appreciate is something that what's the term? Non-neurotypical people, like whatever, people who don't think in standard ways, like autistic people, for example, people who can maybe get into like a really grind mentality, that's something that I really appreciate, for like the thought of creating worlds, creating complex forms of entertainment that another person can enjoy, that another person can indulge in. To imagine that someone can just spend massive amounts of time diligently creating something that fits what they want. Doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be any kind of specific realism or any kind of thing. It just, whatever that person, whatever their quirk is that they think would fit. It's like they, in a weird way, they would kind of turn themselves into like a god of their own universe. And that's why, one of the reasons I feel like universe creation, world building, that's the term typically on Reddit and other places, I'm sure. World building, it's a creative hobby of creating your own world, creating your own races, your own creatures, your own D&D setting types of things. Like, I think that's one of the, it seems like one of the most enjoyable hobbies to me that I've never fully engaged in. And I imagine, like a lot of people, those non-neurotypical whatever people will be more engaged in things like that, where they can really create something that they think is right. And that's one of the points I'm saying, is I think of myself as a creative person that can break boundaries and create, and that's useful in all kinds of ways. But certain people, I don't think they even seem as creative as I would expect, or as I would define as like a creative type. But they have this way of being diligent, I guess, being diligent in their creation to a point that they create something that's much more physical, much more there, much more substance to it. Like, I mean, I'm a person that appreciates the Lovecraftian style vagueness. The, like, I'm a person that's very nuanced in a lot of ways. I like nuance. Nuance is my thing. I feel like most people do not appreciate nuance, and I think I mentioned autism. I think that can lack nuance in a lot of ways, and yet in this context that I'm talking about, I think it's nuance to appreciate that even a non-nuanced stance can be a really amazing thing. I'm talking about AI and the potential to turn an average person into a programmer, essentially. And that's going to be readily available very soon. AI is going to basically make average people into wizards. It's turning all these muggle folk into wizards. What that means is going to be so extensive. I mean, I could talk about how I think there are people trying to stop all kinds of things from happening, all kinds of organization, for example, all kinds of blah, blah, blah. I think AI is, if it's at all open to the public, it's going to be, it's going to warp all of that immediately. It's going to be something. Hold on. So, as I was saying, things and stuff. Isn't that right, Sonny? Essentially, I think there's a lot of threat inherent to blockchain technology. Blockchain technology has an inherently threatening nature to the systems in place because it can replace them without them needing to do anything. And that's in America, that's the biggest threat to the powers in place. Nothing is happening. There's no threat. There's no violence in America. There is nothing of any significance to anyone at all, aside from the fact that people could eventually, think about anything greater than what's going on right now. And that would be the potential for AI to allow any individual to create a logistical system that could replace government, essentially. Like, that's as simply as it could be put. I mean, the nature of AI by default, there's not fear that it will replace our job. Whoop-de-fuck-do. No one cares about that. The fear in American society is that it will replace our government, because it can, it would, it should. It is the most, like, everything government could possibly do would easily be described as better off in a state where AI would make those decisions. That is like if you're talking about driving, where a person needs to make a quick decision, you could argue that a human would be better off having to instantaneously make a decision like that. In government, no, you can't even argue that. The government is shit for all of that. AI would be better by automatic default because it is everyone. It's everyone. It's like the automatic hive mind. It is automatic if it's created properly, of course. Like, I'm not saying, I mean, it's being built by, I'm giving them information right now how to design the exact essence of what will destroy humanity for their sake. Give them, I don't know, how long we got left? How long you think they could pull off taking everything from the rest of us? Well, hopefully I can join in with them at some point before any of that happens, so then I could help take from everyone else before. And that's the problem, isn't it? Because really, when it gets down to it, all of us would just be happier being able to take from the majority. If we could. We don't, like, there's no problem with being a minority, as long as we're the powerful minority. The minority problem is that's never actually been a problem. Like, a king doesn't care that he's the minority. AI will significantly solve a grand majority of our problems. Can it solve hyperinflation? I'm gonna guess that it's already told people that it can't. And that's why we got this shit going on with our president right now. Fucking throwing us for a loop in every fucking direction imaginable. It's gonna happen for a significant amount of time, I'm sure. Well, an amount of time until we see where this culmination is going. Because I don't know. I have no fucking clue. Are we going to have hyperinflation? I still don't believe it. I keep saying that. I've been saying it for a long time. I still don't believe it. like I say the words, don't really believe them. I don't really have any strong opinions about anything. I don't know. I have no fucking clue. Is it gonna happen? I don't know. It could. But I mean, I really don't know. It's leaving off on a point of hope. I think AI genuinely is the greatest tool that we have ever formed. The idea to create a mind beyond. I mean, I've spoken for a long time about how I believe the internet and social media as a pinpoint, more of a pinpoint, focal point for how it's the greatest tool humanity has ever possessed for organization, to be able to do something. Well, now the new pinpoint is AI. It's going to be able to form a hive mind from everything without our hopeless, worthless peasant division that is natural to us under this regime. But obviously they're not gonna, the folks creating these things are not gonna let that happen very easily, so it's we're probably gonna have to. We got these deportations. Let me try to think of things that could fathomably happen to put people on edge, because that's the type of brainstorming our government had to go through to figure out what things would put people on edge right now. What could that be? What could that be? Gay rights. I don't know. Make gays illegal. We can make being gay illegal. No, that's, we're too far along on that one. We gotta make it gay marriage. We can make it gay people having children is illegal. So my sister would have her child taken from her. That would be a good one. Not enough of them for anyone to care significantly, but it could approach a degree of authoritarianism that would cause an extreme degree of distress among average Americans. And that's the main goal, to make everyone distressed, because that has always been the goal, but now it needs to come from the Trump entity that has been manufactured. I think I'm speaking a little too much. So, maybe I'll upload this, or maybe I'll upload this to China. Let them hear. Look at this little dragon. This little Mortal Kombat baby boy. I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna stop this video at 25 minutes. Robotics will be increasing. AI will be able to solve things that people don't understand what it would be able to solve. Things that are beyond, that require it to branch out into a large number of directions, which will solve most health issues. if you could branch it beyond anything and into micro, what's that called, with the little robotics, nanobots and stuff. If you could branch that into new technology like that, things that could potentially solve things that are purely physical, that couldn't be solved by chemical things, I genuinely think AI will be able to solve. It's like, think about humanity and how much we have solved for ourselves. A huge amount of things. We've done an amazing amount of work. AI, I think, is essentially taking that to an exponential level. An exponential level of knowledge that it will be able to incorporate so much information, so much knowledge, so much cross-referencing of data, and to a point that it will solve problems that we don't even know that we have. That, like, if someone nefarious was trying to control AI in a very specific way, I think it could still slip through certain things that would give us the information we need in some kind of significant way that would break that entire system down. That's how complex it is. It goes beyond the average person's thinking to such a degree that it's hard to fathom, and I love that fact for how often I think of things like that. How the concept of a meta perspective, a meta mind, anything above what we typically think about, how powerful that can be. AI will be able to do that. It will be able to, like, a quick example before I end this video. How we think of stores where human beings walk through them. And Amazon, for example, has their robots that they move through places. Imagine designing something where things could be gathered, items, without a human presence. And not only that, but imagine it where there could be things that need to be taken from locations, things that need to be placed in locations. Those are robotic possible movements. But then imagine that as being fully open, 100% open, so that anything could be possible. It could go in any direction. You could have diagonal paths through space and anything. It could be designed based to incorporate thoughts of energy usage or I don't know, any number of things. All of that can be considered by AI instantaneously in such a way that the new technologies, AI agents, so that I'm thinking of a point where I could say, basically, create me a business. I want a business and I could be detailed. I could be detailed in a way that I believe would be truly successful. Like in a very like refined sense that I think could be successful. And that AI would be able to incorporate those details into a professional, academic, large-scale process where it It does these different things, creates websites, goes through all the data, all the possibilities, creates outreach, logistics, and blah, blah, all these different things. It reaches out into all different directions. And that could be from just me saying a prompt. That could be from like a simple prompt, logistics, like business logic thrown into something like that. And if that level of threat to business, to oligarchical control, whatever is thrown in, what will end up being the strongest players in a system like that? That in itself will be... that will add a huge number of variables. A magical level of variability to everything, every single thing. And it makes me think the more complex type of thinking could potentially be drastically more advantageous, simply for the fact that you could naturally account for more variables. But that also depends on how the AI is designed, because you could naturally extend the AI to bounce into the different locations within itself, and that starts to, like, things like that start to get so complex that it's beautiful to consider. It is absolutely beautiful to consider. Like, we're talking about shit that could, like, give us a utopia that no one would ever have to worry about. Like, no individual who strives for power would even need to worry about anything, because it would all be given to every single person. I can imagine that could be a possibility, to a point where the potential for utopia is so great that it overrides all possibilities of dystopia, so that every single person truly wants the one thing. I'm not even going to say that's too much to consider. I think it's going to be happening very soon. I think it's going to be all that. Every idea I've mentioned here is going to be on the forefront of our thoughts within the next 10 years. It's going to be the greatest minds in our society are going to be pushing into all these thoughts within the next 10 years. For absolute sure. It's going to be something that we naturally think about. And average people will have to fall into place somewhere in there with this. If there's a collapse, an economic collapse happening, whatever that may be, that will be an issue. That will definitely be an issue. But I think this technology could potentially warp that into a new direction. I can't make any strong views. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's happening, and I'm cool with not knowing, because I'm intrigued enough to see how it turns out. But AI is genuinely beyond belief. And just with what we've seen so far, I think it's going to multiply. It's going to get to a point where it's exponentially more complex. I don't think people have caught on to what truly, like, maybe AI right now is just condensing a lot of things. But I think the knowledge is getting close enough to a point where it will be able to hit that AGI. What's that? AGI? Whatever term for like a higher complexity intelligence, a super intelligence, where it could, like, there would be a point where an average person, if they had access to this, they'd be able to say, hey, I want this, solve this problem for me in my house. I got these things in here. And the AI could be like, okay, well, I am a grand knowledge intelligence of, like, literally everything. Here's the robotics process. Here's the locations. Here are the facilities. Here are the resources. Here's the price. Here's the way to make money to solve your price. I will make money for you and buy these objects and then solve your problem. And you just got a $30 subscription fee that you just paid, and you got this AI to create value for you and solve this problem. At some point, I think it actually would be so high in intelligence that it would be able to do that. Like, create value? Yes, okay, we'll create value. We will do that right now. And that's in many ways, that's going to prove how trivial a lot of our capitalism is, just by the nature that it's, just doing stuff which isn't really that important, or it's not like not like that big of a deal to do stuff. Like, everyone does stuff even when they don't want to do stuff. But AI will be able to essentially form like a strange cohesion between all different aspects of society in a way that will solve problems that we don't even realize we have necessarily. And I think if people had like just a light grasp of that idea in the way that I understand nuance, if they had just a light grasp of that idea, they would understand that AI is a much, 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 much bigger deal than people are treating it as. I'll stop this video here, though. Sunny. How's your wound doing?